Atacama Desert, the driest place on Earth, where rain hasn't fallen for decades. Here, amidst endless sands and salt flats, in February 2024, a discovery was made that shook the world. An American reconnaissance satellite was conducting routine surveillance of the Chilean-Bolivian border when an artificial intelligence algorithm detected an unusual anomaly. After a severe sandstorm passed over the region 3 days ago, a metallic object emerged from beneath several meters of sand. Operator Jason Turner initially mistook it for the wreckage of a crashed aircraft. Such finds aren't uncommon in these areas, but upon zooming in, CIA analysts turned pale. The photograph clearly showed a submarine periscope. "This is impossible," whispered Chief Analyst Mark Stevens, a former submarine officer. "The nearest ocean is 400 kilometers away." He immediately contacted the U.S. Navy archives and an hour later received a response that sent chills down his spine. Preliminary data indicated that the periscope's design matched that of Permit-class submarines, which were in service during the 1960s. Daily Saba, within 72 hours, an international expedition led by Dr. David Mitchell, a leading expert in naval archaeology, whose father had served on a submarine and died under mysterious circumstances in 1969, arrived at the site. The team included Jack Hansen, a former U.S. Navy nuclear engineer who participated in the K-19 submarine accident recovery; Carla Ramos, a Chilean biologist specializing in Andean wildlife behavior; Hiroshi Tanaka, a Japanese radiation safety expert who worked in Fukushima; and a group of 12 specialists from various fields. From the outset, the expedition encountered peculiarities. All electronic devices within a 5-kilometer radius of the object malfunctioned. Compasses spun wildly, as if in the epicenter of a magnetic storm. GPS coordinates pointed to the center of the Pacific Ocean, and dosimeters recorded mysterious radiation spikes that appeared and disappeared without any logical pattern. Local guide Juan Castillo refused to approach within a kilometer of the site. "This is a cursed place. My grandfather spoke of a night when an iron whale fell from the sky." But the most unusual phenomenon was the behavior of the local vicuñas, South American relatives of llamas. These typically cautious animals, usually avoiding humans, gathered in dozens around the excavation site, forming nearly a perfect circle about 100 meters from the periscope. They showed no fear. On the contrary, they observed every movement of the researchers, turning their heads synchronously, as if guided by a single mind. "In 20 years of working in the Andes, I've never seen anything like this," noted Carla Ramos in her notebook. "The vicuñas behave as if they're guarding this place, or waiting for something. The strangest part is that there are no young individuals among them, only adults over 5 years old." After a week of exhausting excavations at plus 45 degrees Celsius, the team cleared the upper part of the hull. The metal was covered with strange spiral corrosion patterns, as if subjected to an unknown type of energy. The markings on board were clear: USS Triton, SSN 601. David Mitchell gasped. This nuclear submarine of the Permit class had been listed as missing since March 15, 1968. Officially, it had sunk in the Atlantic during a secret mission to intercept a Soviet submarine. No wreckage or bodies of the 112 crew members were ever found. Entering the submarine through the torpedo hatch felt like a journey through time. The first compartment greeted them with eerie silence and a temperature of about plus 15 degrees Celsius. Remarkably cool for a metal hull that had lain under the scorching desert sun for decades. In the control room, everything remained as if the crew had left just yesterday. On the navigation table lay maps of the Atlantic Ocean with a plotted course. In the mess hall, mugs with dried coffee sat on the tables, and in the captain's cabin, a calendar showed the date, March 15th, 1968. Nearby lay an open book, Herman Melville's Moby Dick, with a photograph of a woman and a young boy tucked inside. But the key answers were found in the captain's logbook, discovered in the bridge's safe, along with a stack of classified documents marked Top Secret/Operation Sandstar. The first entries described a routine secret operation, searching for and recovering a Soviet space capsule with experimental equipment that had fallen into neutral waters. On board was a special scientific consultant from the NSA, Dr. William Hoffman, a theoretical physicist who had worked on the Philadelphia experiment. Everything changed on March 14th. March 14, 2340, discovered an object at a depth of 300 meters. Water temperature anomalously high, plus 18 degrees instead of the usual 4. The sonar detects strange glowing around the object. Dr. Hoffman is agitated, says it's the very capsule with the Compass 7 prototype. During the lift, the manipulator struck the hull. Suddenly, some device inside activated. A blinding blue flash illuminated the water. All instruments failed simultaneously. The bridge smelled of ozone. The next entry stunned the researchers. March 15th, 0715. My God, we're on the surface, but around us, desert. As far as the eye can see, sand and mountains. Outside temperature, plus 42 degrees Celsius. The depth gauge shows minus 800 meters. We're like floating in the air. This is impossible, but the GPS, when it manages to catch a signal, shows coordinates in South America. The crew is on the verge of panic. Seaman Jenkins claims he saw a fish swimming by the porthole. I'm afraid people are starting to hallucinate from the shock. In the ship's log, there was an insert, a report by Dr. Hoffman. What I feared has happened. The Soviet Compass 7 is not a navigation device, but a generator of space-time anomalies. When activated, it created a local rupture in the continuum, shifting the submarine through warped space. The destination coordinates were apparently random. We've been thrown into the most unsuitable place on the planet. Subsequent entries became a chronicle of desperate survival. The main problem was the S5W nuclear reactor. Without seawater, the cooling system failed. The temperature in the active zone was rising catastrophically fast, threatening a nuclear meltdown. March 17, Day 3. The reactor is overheating. Thermocouple readings are off the scale. Chief Engineer Thompson and his team are working around the clock, trying to create an alternative cooling system from the ship's freshwater reserves. But it will last at most 5 days. If we don't find a solution, a thermal explosion will turn hundreds of square kilometers into a radioactive desert. I've sent 3 reconnaissance teams to search for any water sources. March 18th, Day 4, something incredible happened. At dawn, the watch reported the approach of a herd of strange animals. About 30 individuals, resembling small llamas, surrounded the boat. They behaved unusually, organized, as if following a plan. The largest female approached the hull and began persistently scraping the sand 200 meters from us. Second-in-command Jackson suggested checking. Beneath the sand, we found moist soil. March 20th, Day 6. These creatures are vicuñas, as Seaman Garcia explained, native to Chile. They continue to assist us. This morning, the entire herd moved eastward, periodically looking back, as if inviting us to follow them. I sent a group of 8 people. 4 hours later, radio operator Parker transmitted an incredible message. The vicuñas led them to a cave with an underground river. The water is icy, perfect for cooling the reactor. The entire crew is working on laying an emergency pipeline. We're using sections of ventilation ducts and seals from the torpedo tubes. The blueprints and diagrams found on the old submarine amazed modern engineers with their ingenuity. The sailors, over 50 years ago, had created a cooling system using the natural elevation difference between the cave and the reactor. They laid nearly 300 meters of pipes welded from available materials. March 25th, Day 11. Incredible. But the vicuñas continue to help. They bring some white clay in their mouths. Mechanic Rodriguez tried using it to seal joints. It works perfectly. How do these animals know what we need? Petty Officer Kowalski, who grew up on a farm, says he's never seen such behavior in animals. They're acting intelligently, purposefully. April 5th, day 22. We've lost 3 crew members to heat stroke. Daytime temperatures reach plus 50 degrees Celsius. The vicuñas showed us several more caves where we can shelter during the hottest time. Surprisingly, these caves, May 1st, day 47. The reactor is shut down. The operation took 18 days. Under normal conditions, it would have taken 10:30 and 3. But we had to improvise every step of the way. Engineer Thompson showed true heroism. He received a serious dose of radiation, but saw it through to the end. He is now in the medical section, and Dr. Wilson is fighting for his life. The vicuñas brought some kind of herbs. Garcia says the local inhabitants use them for radiation sickness. We have no other options. The doctor made an infusion from this herb. In the ship's doctor's journal, there is a note. Thompson's condition stabilized after taking the infusion. Blood tests show a decrease in free radical levels. These plants contain some kind of natural antioxidants. How did the vicuñas know exactly what we needed? This clearly goes beyond instinctive behavior of animals. May 25th, day 72. Of the 112 people, only 37 remain. The rest have died from heat stroke, dehydration, radiation sickness, and accidents during sorties. Yesterday, we lost radio operator Parker. He fell into a crevice. The vicuñas tried to warn him, but he didn't understand their signals. It's surprising, but these animals have developed a whole warning system. The sound of hooves means danger underfoot. A sharp whistle, a sandstorm is approaching. Circular head movements, poisonous snakes nearby. A last entry is dated June 15th, 1968. Our strength is running out. It's the 3rd day without water. The underground source has dried up. The vicuñas left yesterday at dawn. The entire herd gathered at the side of the boat. They stood in a semicircle, their heads lowered. Then the oldest female, we called her the queen, approached me and nudged my hand with her muzzle. In her huge brown eyes, I saw something like a farewell and a promise, as if she were saying, "We did everything we could. We won't forget you. We'll protect this place." Dr. Hoffman died last night. Before he passed, he was delirious, repeating, "They knew, the vicuñas knew, this is no coincidence. We were meant to be here." Maybe he was right. Maybe there's a higher meaning in all this. I leave this journal in the hope that someday we will be found. If you're reading this, know that we didn't give up. We fought until the end, and we were not alone. Tell our families. We thought about them every day. P.S. If you meet vicuñas, bow to them from us. They are more than just animals. They are guardians. Captain 3rd Rank, Robert Anderson. The study of the submarine by the modern expedition lasted 3 weeks. Personal belongings of the crew were found in various compartments. Photographs of loved ones, unfinished letters, homemade chess pieces made from tin cans. In the junior's cabin, they found a stuffed bear and a letter. "Dear Mom, please don't cry. The vicuñas say I'll become a star. I don't understand how, but I believe them." In the secret compartment, they discovered a Soviet capsule. The cause of the entire catastrophe. The Compass 7 device was a sphere about a meter in diameter, covered with complex mathematical formulas. Nearby were charred documents in Russian and Dr. Hoffman's last note. I knew what I was getting into. The CIA was warned about the nature of this device. Soviet physicists are decades ahead of us in understanding quantum mechanics of space-time. Compass 7 is not a weapon, it is the key to traveling between dimensions. But we were not ready. Now 112 people will pay for the ambitions of politicians. If you find us, don't repeat our mistakes. The universe is more complex than we think, and wiser. In the reactor compartment, besides the brilliant cooling system, they found something completely inexplicable. On the bulkhead were scratched complex mathematical formulas and diagrams describing the behavior of particles in conditions of space-time anomalies. Dr. Tanaka, upon seeing them, was shaken. These are string theory equations, but they were formulated only in the 1990s. How could ordinary sailors know about such things? In the mechanics watch log, they found a possible answer. Something strange happened today. I was working in the reactor compartment, trying to optimize the cooling fluid flow. Suddenly, formulas appeared in my head, formulas I never knew, as if someone was dictating them to me. I wrote them on the bulkhead so I wouldn't forget. Thompson says he also has these revelations. Maybe radiation has this effect. Or is this place special? The most dangerous phase was the deactivation of the reactor. Despite being shut down 56 years ago, the sensors still showed residual radiation and mysterious energy surges every 47 minutes, as if the reactor was pulsing in its own rhythm. On the 7th day of the operation, something happened that local legends had warned about for decades. When the engineers opened the reactor's protective shell, all electronic devices in the camp simultaneously failed. A strange glow appeared in the sky, resembling the northern lights, but in a geometrically perfect shape, concentric circles radiating from the submarine's epicenter. Old cooling pipes leaked. The radiation levels suddenly spiked. And then the incredible happened. The vicuñas appeared seemingly out of nowhere. A whole herd, about 50 individuals, including several very old animals with gray fur. They began to cry out loudly and gathered into a tight group, stomping their hooves in a certain rhythm. "They're warning us," shouted Carla Ramos. No more than 20 minutes later, a fierce sandstorm began, one of those that happens once a decade. But the vicuñas had already led the people to shelter. They led the expedition to the very cave system where the crew had once hidden. In the main cave, researchers made a remarkable discovery. On the walls, in addition to ancient petroglyphs, there were modern diagrams, designs of a submarine reactor, nuclear decay formulas, even the periodic table of elements. All of this was done with natural pigments, but with astonishing precision. Carla Ramos carefully examined the drawings. The style is ancient. The technique of application corresponds to the Chinchorro culture, which dates back at least 3,000 years. But the content, it's as if ancient people knew about nuclear physics, or someone passed this knowledge to them. When the storm subsided after 6 hours, it turned out that the sand had covered the leak site, creating a natural sarcophagus around the damaged area. Moreover, sand analysis revealed an abnormally high boron content, a natural neutron absorber. The radiation background dropped to nearly safe levels. This cannot be explained by coincidence, Dr. Tanaka stated at an emergency meeting. The vicuñas led us precisely to that cave, from where the storm brought exactly the type of sand needed to neutralize the leak. The probability of such a coincidence is 1 in a billion. On the final day of operations, when the nuclear fuel was removed and placed in protective containers, another surprising event occurred. The oldest vicuña from the herd, remarkably similar to the one described in the Queen Journal, approached the reactor compartment hatch. A young male with an unusual spiral-shaped mark on his forehead followed her. The old vicuña stood for several minutes, then touched her snout to the submarine's hull and let out a long cry, echoed by the entire herd. After that, she nudged the young male forward, as if passing the baton to him. He approached David Mitchell and touched his snout to his outstretched hand, just as Captain Anderson had described in his last letter. At that moment, I understood. Mitchell later wrote in his report that we were witnessing something greater than just a rescue operation. We touched a mystery that connects the past and the present, humans and nature, science and what lies beyond it. Upon the final reactor inspection, a metal plaque was found attached to the bulkhead. It was inscribed with the words, "Thank you, Desert Guardians. You gave us more than water and food. You gave us hope. You showed that we are not alone in the universe." Senior Engineer Lieutenant Michael Thompson, May 14, 1968. Next to the plaque was a small bundle of rubberized fabric. Inside was a tuft of silver-colored vicuña wool and a note. "This is from the Queen. She said, yes, I believe she spoke to me, that someday other people will come here, and then her descendants will recognize them by this sign. Protect them. They are more than they seem." The examination of the recovered materials shed light on the mystery of the USS Triton's disappearance. The Soviet device, Compass 7, turned out to be a prototype of a generator for controlled space-time anomalies. But the most shocking discovery came when studying Dr. Hoffman's documents. In his personal safe, a folder labeled Umbra/Keystone, the highest level of U.S. security clearance, was found. The documents revealed the existence of a joint U.S.-Soviet program, codenamed Einstein-Rosen Bridge, initiated back in 1961. Scientists from both superpowers secretly collaborated in the field of quantum physics, carefully concealing this from their governments. "The Cold War is a facade," Hoffman wrote in his diary. "The real game is played on another level. We found a way to warp space-time, but we can't control the exit point. Soviet colleagues warned the device is unstable, but the military on both sides demand results. I'm afraid we're opening Pandora's box." Hoffman's last diary entry, made in the desert, was striking in its prophetic accuracy. "Now I understand. This is not a coincidence. We were directed here. The vicuñas, they are part of something greater." The ancients knew about power spots, places where the boundaries between worlds thin. In our arrogance, we thought we invented something new, but we only rediscovered what was known thousands of years ago. The Quechua Indians call vicuñas messengers of the gods. Now I know why. The investigation revealed that the U.S. government knew about the possible location of the submarine as early as the 1970s. Satellite images showed an anomaly in the Atacama Desert, but the search operation was canceled. Declassified CIA documents contained a resolution from the then director. "Too risky. If the Russians find out we've discovered their technology, it could provoke a war. Let the Sands keep this secret." But the most astonishing discovery was made when analyzing the DNA of that very vicuña wool preserved by the crew. Geneticists found strange markers not characteristic of this species. Moreover, some genome segments contained sequences that modern science cannot decipher. "It looks like a code," explained Dr. Elena Voronova, the project's leading geneticist. "As if someone used DNA as an information carrier. We see clear mathematical patterns, repeating sequences. This cannot be the result of natural evolution." Today, the USS Triton is declared an international memorial. The reactor has been completely neutralized and the radiation threat eliminated. The government of Chile, with support from the US and Russia, documents of cooperation have been fully declassified, created a 50-square-kilometer national park around the submarine. In the park's center stands a monument, a bronze sculpture of a vicuña standing on the submarine's bow. At its base are engraved the names of all 112 crew members and the words, "They didn't return home, but they weren't alone." Every year on March 15th, the day the submarine ended up in the desert, vicuñas come here. Hundreds gather around the memorial, forming the same perfect circle as 56 years ago. They stand in complete silence for exactly 47 minutes, the number of days the crew survived thanks to their help. Then the oldest female approaches the monument, touches it with her snout, and lets out a long cry. After that, the entire herd slowly disperses to return here exactly 1 year later. The locals call this day Dia de los Guardianes, Guardians Day. Old Carlos Mamani, now 92 years old, comes to the memorial every time. My grandfather was right. He said the iron whale didn't fall from the sky just like that. The mountain spirits chose the vicuñas to help people from another world. Since then, these animals have been sacred guardians. They remember, and they teach us to remember. The scientific community still cannot explain many aspects of this story. The International Center for Vicuña Phenomenon Studies has established that the descendants of that herd possess unusually high intelligence and the ability to pass knowledge to new generations. The Compass 7 device was destroyed after more than a year of research, deeming the technology too dangerous. However, the deciphered equations laid the foundation for a new multiverse theory. In the Submarine Museum, there's a sailor's notebook from Baker with the last entry. Mom always said guardian angels exist. She just didn't know they have 4 hooves and brown eyes. Wikipedia, Svobodная encyclopedia. Every evening in the desert at sunset, shadows from the cliffs form a giant spiral with the submarine at its center. Locals call this phenomenon the path of spirits.